Hello, and welcome to the Season 5 finale of Cooking Corner with Giuseppe CrimiVaroli. Today for you, we've got one of the most requested recipes in all of Cooking Corner, bread. Now I know what you're thinking, Giuseppe, that's the best idea since sliced bread. And I'll tell you this, we're not even going to slice it. As with any good bread, you've got to let your ingredients rise. Ingredients such as salt, active dry yeast, sugar, and flour. Now in terms of hardware, you're going to need the following. You're going to need a measuring cup. You're going to need 2 medium to large mixing bowls. You're going to need a measuring spoon. You're going to need an oven-safe container with a lid. You're going to need cling wrap and a lot of it. And you're going to need parchment paper. Look at me. Parchment paper, not wax paper. You want to know the difference? You can use wax paper if the thing you're trying to cook is fire. As always, folks, step number 1 is going to be wash your hands. Go ahead, turn your water on. Get your hands nice and moist. Get in between the fingers. Apply some liquid soap. Bar soap if that tickles your fancy. Get that soap all over your mitts in between the fingers on the back of the hands. Stick them back under the water and keep washing them off. Once you're convinced your hands are sufficiently clean, put the water off, turn the water off, grab a towel, and dry the water off. And now we're ready to cook. Moving right along, folks, step number 2 is going to be make your dough. So what you're going to do for this step is combine all of your dry ingredients and then top it off with some water. So you're going to need 1 teaspoon each of salt and sugar, a half teaspoon of active dry yeast, and 3 cups of flour. Once you've got all your dry ingredients in the bowl, mix them up. Now you're ready to add your water. You're going to need 1.5 to 1 3/4 cup of warm water. Now when I say warm, I mean hot water, but not so hot that you burn yourself. Use your imagination as to what that means. Once you've got your water, add it to your mixture and start mixing it around. Your mixture should be very sticky. Now we're ready to move on. Moving right along, folks, we're on to step number 3. And step number 3 is going to be proof your bread. Now to proof your bread, what you're going to do is cover this bowl in cling wrap and stick it in your oven at 100 degrees for 3 to 4 hours. Alright folks, it's been 3 hours. Our bread should be nice and proof. So we're going to take it out, turn the oven up to 450 degrees, and we're going to put our oven-safe dish inside. Now before you do that, you're going to want to line it with parchment paper. And then put the lid on it, and then stick it in the oven to heat up with the oven. When the oven hits 450 degrees, we'll take this out, put our bread in it, put it back in, and make the bread. It's that simple. So, go ahead, line your thing with parchment paper. Increase the oven temperature to 450 degrees. You can grab your dough out. It's risen quite a lot. And you can put this in. Now we're ready to move on to the next step. Alright folks, moving right along with step 4 of our bread recipe. Now that we've got our proof dough, what we're going to do is roll it in flour and shape it. So what you're going to do is get your flour and pour some on your counter or on a cutting board, wherever you want. You just need a generously floured surface. Like that. Now, you're going to get your dough and scoop it out of this bowl onto the floured surface. It's going to be sticky. Now that you've got most of the dough out of the bowl, you can start using this flour and coating the ball in the flour. You want to get it covered in the flour on all sides, really, so that you can grab it without it sticking to you. Then what you're going to do is kind of tuck the sides of the ball underneath it so it fluffs up like that. Now, very carefully, remove your oven-safe container from the oven and put this inside of it without burning yourself. That's very important. Don't burn yourself. Moving on to step number 5. So you've just taken out your very hot dish from your oven. You can remove the top of it carefully and take out the parchment paper, also carefully. That parchment paper is golden brown, which means it's ready to eat. Just kidding, of course. So what you're going to do with your parchment paper is you're going to put the dough in that and then use the parchment paper to put the dough back into the bowl or dish, whatever you're using. So go ahead, take your parchment paper out, flour your hands a little bit, grab the dough, stick it in the parchment paper. Take that, drop it into the bowl, put the lid back on, and now it's going to go back in the oven. Alright, so your bread is in your oven-safe dish, your oven is at 450 degrees, it's time to bake it. So, you're going to take your dish that is still warm, so grab it with a towel, and stick it in your 450 degree oven for 25 minutes with the lid on. After 25 minutes, you're going to remove the lid and bake it for another 5 to 10 minutes until it's nice and golden brown and crispy on the top. Alright, let's get to it. Open your oven, carefully of course. Grab your hot dish with your bread in it. Stick it in the oven without burning yourself. And close the oven. Then you set timer 1 for 25 minutes and we'll come back and check it. Alright everybody, the bread's been in for 25 minutes. Now we're going to open it up, take the lid off, and leave it in for another 5 to 10 minutes until it's nice and crispy on the top. Alright? Let's get to it. Carefully remove that lid without burning yourself. Oh yeah, that's hot. Cover it back up. Timer, 5 minutes, then we'll check it. Alright? So it's been 5 minutes. Let's take our bread out and see if it's done. Oh, that is looking delicious. So, get your relatively heat-resistant whatever you're using. Grab that pot without burning yourself. Put it on the counter. You can then turn the oven off. Now, it's time to take this out of the dish and leave it on the counter to cool. Now, we're on to step number 6. And step number 6 is going to be remove the bread from the oven-safe dish and let it cool on the counter. Now, the key to doing this is using the parchment paper. So very carefully and without burning yourself, grab the edges of the parchment paper and lift it up and just put the bread on the counter, like that. You can spread the parchment paper out and let that cool. In the meantime, we can put this somewhere where no one's going to burn themselves. Alright, so the bread has had time to cool, so it's time for the final step, which is going to be plating. So now that you've got a plate and your bread is nice and cool, you can go ahead and put that bread on that plate. Ta-da! You've been plated. Alright everybody, that concludes this week's episode of Cooking Corner with Giuseppe CrimiVaroli. I hope you like the bread recipe because it's good for all occasions. If you like this video, feel free to leave a like on it. If there's something you want to see on the channel, leave it in the comments. I'll try to learn that dish and get back to you. And bye-bye now. Cooking Corner. Cooking Corner. Cooking Corner.